Hello, I'm just going to say souls, but you're amazing souls and humans. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kimberly Jo Height, in case you're new here. I am an empowerist, and my intention is to guide you to take back your power and create a life that you love to live through 20 plus years of knowledge, whether that be with law of attraction, manifesting, law of assumption, or my favorite word, auto-shit-ism. And I share lots of energy work. I'm going to be starting to add some art. So if you're new here, make sure you hit that bell notification, like, and subscribe. And I think that's all. So let's dive into what today's topic is all about. So I am just as human as you are, and I'm just as much on a journey as you are. And I kept having something coming up for me that I thought I had forgiven. I went through some of the processes and it was still there. So I felt like I needed to do something again. So, what I want to talk to you about today is forgiveness and why it's important. I hear a lot of people say, well, I can't forgive them. They hurt me, or they did this, or they're terrible, or whatever you insert after why you can't forgive. And what I want to share with you, and you may have heard this before, and maybe you've just forgotten, and this will be a great reminder today. Forgiveness isn't about the other person or the circumstances or the thing. Forgiveness is a within job. It is for you. It is for your mind. It's for your body. It's so that you can take back your power and let go of the energetic burden of carrying around resentments, judgments, anger, all the things. Okay. So I just thought I would share with you. I'm going to do a little bit of history or backstory here. I was forced to go to counseling when I was about 14 years old. And when I say forced, I did not want to go. I had a preconceived notion based on some of the things that my family had told me. Not all of my family, but I thought that counseling was for crazy people. And again, that wasn't a great belief, but it was one that I had. I was 14. I didn't know any better. And I was angry about being forced to go to counseling. I wasn't the problem. It was the people in my life that were the problem, right? So anyway, I went for 6 months and I spoke about my life in third person. And what I mean by that is I would show up to my counseling appointment and I would talk about my life as if it were somebody else's life. And this particular counselor, finally, about 6 months in, she broke through my walls, made me cry, which made me angry because I didn't cry. Again, I was told that crying was a weakness and that if I did cry, I was being manipulative. Again, some bullshit stories, but that's what I was told. So that's what I took to believe as my truth. And so when she finally broke through that wall, I was angry, told her I hated her. And I finally got to this point where I trusted her enough to show up and start talking about my life and talking about the feelings that I obviously had. I just kept stuffing them down. The only time I would cry would be if I were to crawl under I had a water bed. I know that might really show my age, but a water bed that sat up on this wooden frame, and I would crawl underneath between it and I would cry there so that nobody knew I was crying. It was just a me thing, and I never admitted it to anybody. Well, she ended up, her husband got a job transfer. And so I was being moved to another counselor. And once again, I felt these abandonment things and I was angry. And this new counselor, though, she was even better than the first one. And there were two things that I took away from the years because it started when I was right around 14, almost 15, I was forced into counseling. And I continued to see her and up until I graduated high school. And as you stick around to my channel, I'll share more about, how I've come to be who I am today and why I teach what I teach. So anyway, this new counselor, she taught me about forgiveness. And I was like so many other people. What adults had done to me as a child and as a teenager, they were unacceptable. And why was it my responsibility to forgive them when they had done the wrong things, right? And so that's where she taught me that forgiveness isn't about them. You don't forgive the act itself. Like, it's not okay what they did, The forgiveness is an inside job because you're carrying around the anger, the hurt, the frustration, the judgment, the resentment, all the things within your energetic body. And of course, she didn't tell me energetic body back then, but she said I was carrying around all of this burden that I didn't need to be carrying around. So that's why I'm here today. I was carrying around something, and I'll fast forward to this past May. I walked away from something that I had been a part of for 3 years. And when I say walk away, I honored my no, and then I literally was removed from the whole program. And there were some feelings there. And I thought I had sorted through them. And I will maybe someday share what that program was. I will never bash it. And I will, but that doesn't feel professional. I will share pieces and parts of it as I go along, but I never want to, I take responsibility for what I got in the last 3 years. And so what that's bringing up for me is that I was really mostly just angry at myself. Like, forgiveness isn't just about other people. And I think one of the hardest things for human beings to do is to offer themselves forgiveness. And I know that might sound crazy, and maybe you haven't done that or you've done it before, but forgiving yourself it's a big one. And it doesn't have to be a big one. But I remember when I first started doing forgiveness for myself, I thought, whoa, I mean, there was a lot of shit there, a lot of layers. And one of the things that I recognized is that today I'm not the same person I was just a minute ago as I'm recording this. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I'm not the same person I was 6 years ago. So the past me made decisions or did things based on where I was energetically in my life, what was going on, and I did the best I could in that moment. And so for me to carry around all this extra baggage, extra garbage, energetically or physically, doesn't make sense. It really is liberating to just let it all go. So I'm going to share with you today. Again, I brought up that something was coming up, and I honestly was more forgiving myself. And so I actually wrote a letter, which you can't really see because of my lighting. And I wrote this letter to me, forgiving myself for missing the red flags and not honoring my intuition and giving my power away. And again, you can go as detailed as you want, or you can leave it kind of general. I will say that if you can be as open and honest with yourself about forgiveness, whether it's for yourself or someone else, and just write it all out. Mine happens to be very short. It's just one notebook paper, front and back. But there have been times where I've written like pages and pages, and I just gave myself that space to let everything bubble up that was something that I needed to let go of, because energetically it was exhausting to carry it around, honestly. So I'm going to suggest or recommend that you offer yourself forgiveness and offer people in your life forgiveness. And so I'm going to go over the whole thing of what I did, but I want to insert here. I want to talk about, if you are a law of assumption person, there is this topic called revision. And I want to share my take on it. And again, these are just my opinions. You take what resonates and leave the rest. I can't honestly speak on revision because I haven't actually ever done revision. Do I think that it can work? Absolutely. If I believe that it works, then it works. Here's the reason why I don't do revision. And again, it's nothing against revision or law of assumption or the things. I look at my past as things that have shaped who I am today in this very moment. If I had not had those experiences, then I would not have stories to share with you. I wouldn't have this inner desire to empower other people, right? So, and trust me, I have things that have happened to me that by most standards would be considered a traumatic event. And I can think of at least 5 off the top of my head that were really profoundly shaped some certain aspects of my life. Now, since then, I have obviously I've done the whole forgiveness ritual, thanks to my counselor. And I could go back and revise those things if I wanted to, like if I really wanted to go play with the law of assumption. But again, I experienced those things, and those experiences I have learned from, I have gained knowledge, and I have evolved. And I may at some point come here and share this with you, or it may be something that's more private and I do share things with my clients, so they get some of that information. I don't know that I'm going to put it out there in the world because there are people that are still alive that they may come across my YouTube channel. I doubt it because I pretty much have an energetic shield against them. But it's just one of those things that it's very personal. But yes, I have trauma, and I don't like labels, and I don't like putting myself in a box. So with all of that being said, let's get back to the topic at hand. I tend to squirrel. So here's what I want you to do. If you're open to this, is write a letter to yourself or to the person that you need to forgive. And when I say you need to forgive, it's because you energetically are walking around with anger, resentment, hurt, sadness, judgments, whatever it is, those lower energy, that lower vibration feelings. Write the letter, and then I actually, on the back, I'm not going to show it all, but I have a long list, which, well, again, the lighting you can't see. I wrote down probably, this is a notebook paper. I'm going to guess there's close to 20 names on here. And I didn't go into specifics about each person, but I thought that I had already gone through the forgiveness, but I wanted to just do that something extra. So I wrote down their name. And then at the end of my letter, I wrote, I forgive you. I appreciate the lessons. I take full responsibility for allowing you to be a reflection to me to cause certain things to happen in my life. I take full responsibility. I release you and I love you. Now, most people would be like, well, why do you say I love you? Well, I believe that we are all connected. We all come from the same source. We are source. And so for me to offer forgiveness and to offer love is what my soul needs to do. If you don't want to say I love you, then don't say it. You can just forgive them. Do what feels good to you. Okay. So now the next thing, and I wrote this letter last night so that I can make this video today. And my YouTube subscribers, you guys get so much more information because TikTok only gives me 10 minutes. So I wrote my letter, and now what I'm going to do is, and I'm not going to do this in my house. You all are very intelligent. I'm just going to explain what I'm doing and you can do it. But I'm actually going to rip up this letter. And then years ago, I was in this little crystal shop, and I got this little, I thought it was cute, it was like a little cauldron. And, for all my little witchy friends out there. And no, I do not practice witchcraft. Not that I'm saying it's a bad thing. I believe there's positive and negative in everything. But I have my sage bundles, and I don't do this so often anymore either. I've talked about, clearing your energy and how I use sage essential oil, but I bought this specifically years ago, so that I could use this and daub out my sage bundle. But what I'm going to do with it today is I'm going to rip up this letter, and I'm going to place the pieces in the bottom of this little bowl, and I'm going to burn it. And I'm going to take those ashes, and again, this is connecting the mind. So we've gotten all of that stuff out of our brains onto a piece of paper. We've physically done something with the thoughts and the thoughts that are in our brain, right? And we physically put it on a piece of paper. And now I'm physically going to rip up that paper. And then I'm going to burn it, which is another physical thing, because I really like to connect the mind, the body, and the spirit, right? You can be done at that point. You can just burn it and throw the ashes out in the trash. I take it one step further because, again, there's something about the ritual of it for me. And what my counselor taught me is just kind of a thing that I do. So you don't have to do this. This may be, I guess I would call it bonus. But I went and got an envelope, and I wrote on the front of it, which again, the lighting's terrible, so I'll read it to you. But it says, I am free and light, exclamation point. I take back my power, exclamation point. And then I did a little doodle heart. What I'll do is I'll burn the letter, and I'll put the ashes in this. And then I'm actually going to ask my son to start a fire in our fire pit. And I'm going to throw it in there, and I'm going to watch it go up and out into the others. And there's something so gratifying about burning a letter. And I've even burned like things before energetically. I have taken them out to the fire pit and just caught them on fire. Now, again, I don't recommend, make sure you're safe. Fire is a thing, but energetically, it's really, you just feel this energetic weight lifted off your shoulders. And I'll tell you, it's slightly different than how my counselor had me do it. I remember the first letters I wrote, I had 3 letters. And she had me write them out, and then I ripped them up and I burned them and I put them in an envelope, and then I put the person's first name on this envelope and I hole punched it, and she had me go get helium balloons. And where I graduated from high school is in the town, there was only one hill. I mean, it was like where everybody went to go sled riding in the wintertime, but there was like this one hill, like that was the tallest point in the town. And so I took my 3 letters that I had attached balloons to, and I walked to the top of this hill. And one by one, I looked at the name and I said, I forgive you. And I let it go. Oh, there was a weight lifted. And then I did the second one. I read the name, I forgive you. And I let it go. And I got down to the last one, and it was the hardest one. And that one has come up several times throughout the year, whether I did trauma release and yoga, and there were some other things that I've done throughout my life that still brought up some residual of this specific person and the traumatic experience that I had. And I remember holding it the longest and just knowing that, and I'm actually getting kind of emotional, I was ready to let go of the trauma and the hurt and all of the things that were attached to it. And again, it took me several years, and it makes me emotional because I can remember holding that letter for so long and not sure that I could actually do it, like that I could forgive the person who had done the thing to me that forever changed my life. And so I sat there and looked at the name, and then finally I said the name and I said, I forgive you, and I let it go. For the first time in a very long time, I remember that I could breathe. There was something about letting that go that let it go physically from my body, that I could actually take a deep breath. Sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional, but it's something that I am forever grateful for, that woman who came into my life as my counselor and taught me the power of forgiveness. And it is something that I have shared throughout the years with clients, with friends, with complete strangers. I have this ability to attract people who I give them messages. And so just remembering that experience and the power of forgiveness, it really is. It's not about the person, the thing, the trauma, the situation. It's for you. It's for what goes on within your body. That mind, body, and spirit connection is just so important, and forgiveness is just so powerful. And again, I'm not saying this is a one and done, you guys. It can be like an onion and have layers to it, right? The initial, like what's on the surface of those feelings, like you can get all of those out. And then sometimes it can come up again, like we can get triggered, especially if you are someone who has had trauma. Things can happen that trigger that response, and you're like, oh. But again, I go back to the forgiveness, and it's a tool that I have shared, again, 20 plus years. Well, actually longer than that, because I'm way older than when I started counseling and did this the first time. But forgiveness is it's a really important tool. And for me, I will continue to share this technique and this with my clients, because I don't want to change who I was or the things that happened to me, because they really truly have brought me to where I am. And I celebrate who I am today. And I thank the past me for being the strong woman that she was, that strong soul, that strong spirit who somehow I've overcome a lot in my lifetime. And I'm very thankful that I learned about forgiveness, because again, it's more for me than it is about anybody else. So with that being said, I truly, I hope that this resonates with somebody today, and that you're brave and you offer forgiveness to yourself and to others. And if you're not quite ready, that's okay. When you're ready, offer yourself the gift of forgiveness. So With that being said, I am sending you all lots of love, light, and really big hugs. Go be an amazing human. Mwah.